Now that I'm getting on to doing these shelves and making sure that they're the right length and everything, I want to make sure that all of these mitered joints here are held in nice and tight. As you can see there's a bit of a gap at the moment. So what I'm going to do is I need to make up some clamping blocks that will help me actually clamp these together, because being a mitered joint, they're a bit tricky to clamp unless you've got something that will really draw the two angles in together. So I've got the offcuts left over from when I cut the miters initially, and I'm going to chop them up into little blocks, and then you'll see I'll just temporarily glue them on, and then that will give me that face to clamp with to pull all the joints nice and tight.
This method's particularly handy when you're trying to clamp up a odd angled miter, or if you're working on a piece that's far too long for any of the clamps that you have to reach from end to end. What I'm doing here is just using CA glue and activator to bond them on. You'd be surprised how much clamping force the CA glue actually has, but one of its good properties is it has a poor shear resistance. So once you're done, you just give them a little knock with the hammer and they'll pop right off, and then you can just sand away any residue left over by the glue. When it comes to measuring the spacing for the shelves, this right hand side's not too difficult. It's just the internal gaps between each shelf plus one shelf thickness. Whereas on the other side, because it's on an angled piece, I can't just measure directly up from the base along the flat surface. So instead I'll just use a large framing square to come off my reference surface, go up 200 millimeters, and then mark where it intersects with the angled side.
Alright, so now that I've got all those measurements done, I can take these two big sides and the top back off, and cut the shelves down to the final size, and then get started on cutting in some dominoes for the joinery. So both of these shelves are now cut to final length with the correct angle on this one. That one's just a right angle, and I've just laid out some dominoes for this. So I'll get those cut in quickly, and then I'll have to lay out and cut them out on the big long sides as well.
Cutting the dominoes is pretty standard procedure on the shelves. I'm just matching the angles and plunging away. Whereas for on the sides, because there's no edge for me to reference the fence of the domino on, I'm having to mark up a 2.5 millimeter offset, because the base plate is 10 millimeters away from each center, and I want a 12.5 mil plunged domino away from the line that I want my shelf to sit in. So you can see I'm just marking slightly away, and then when I go to attach my makeshift fence, I'm just going up to that offset line, and then that should give me the right dimensions for having everything line up. Sweet, so with those sorted, I got to slap everything back together again, do another quick test fit with those shelves in with their dominoes, while I heavily contemplate having to drill a great big hole into the top of the case section at the bottom to receive the final brass rod. It's around this point that I let out a great big sigh of relief, because the measuring and all of my planning has finally come to fruition, and these two holes lining up perfectly nice and square. And the last sort of hurdle to do is like I said, the final hole into the case. So I'm just double checking everything before I rip it all apart again and flip it up so I can drill that hole. Yeah, I don't trust my freehand drilling skills nearly enough for something that needs to be as precise as this, because even if it was ever so slightly off center or out of square, it would just throw everything off and make assembly on site really difficult. So once again, I'll be using the portable drill guide by UJK, as it seems to be pretty accurate so far, and then give it a quick sand clean up, and then we'll do a final test fit.
Moment of truth, eh? So I think I'd be lying if I said that that wasn't immensely stressful, but also the greatest of reliefs to see that come together the way that it has. I'm really stoked with how it's come out. Obviously we're looking at the back right now, so these shelves will be up against the wall. This is the frame and panel backing, but I needed to do all the work from this side. So yeah, I think I'm going to take a mental health minute just to recover from the stress of that, and then take everything back apart. Oh, actually, I need to sort out some holes. There's obviously the dominoes are through there. I'm probably gonna screw in through from the back as well, just to secure that for when the time comes to glue them on after everything's been finished and coloured. And then once I've got those screws sorted, I'll just take everything back apart, get this main case reassembled, and get started on the door handles and the door handle / drawer pull for the pull out section, which are also going to be out of ash getting stained black, so they will tie in. Those 4 pieces or 5 pieces will all tie in together.